Hi everyone, it's Leslie Dale with the TFP, and we are talking with someone from Chattanooga who was in Turkey last week for a night of sheer terror, mayhem, violence, killing 232 people. This is Jacobo Salazar Jr., just made it back. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're home safe, first and foremost. Let's talk to everybody about the beginning of this trip and why you were there. What happened?
Okay. I went to go run with the bulls in Pamplona. And Turkey, Istanbul is a major hub, kind of like Atlanta airport. And it's Turkey for all of Europe. And so that was, the bull run was over. Made it back to Turkey to catch my flight back to Atlanta. And on the 15th, this is the 15th, I had a long layover, so I was already prepared to be there for a while. And what turned into be, 2.5 days, we were there. And so I'm sitting there, just charging up my phone.
At the airport.
At the airport, sitting at the airport with two people from Egypt. And we were all powering off of one outlet. So USB and they have different outlets over there. So we went into extension. And we're sitting there sharing goodies, they had some crackers and I had some chocolates. And so we're sitting right there on the ground, prepared to stay for a little while. And this woman, the first person I saw, comes around the corner screaming, literally screaming, and then into another language. And we see a wave of people coming right behind her. And at this moment, there's kids falling, women falling down. I very vividly remember seeing water bottles rolling, shoes, people were falling out of their shoes, literally. And we grab our power and our bags by us. I don't check anything in, so I had everything with me, just 2 pieces of luggage. And we grab our stuff. I made sure I grabbed my phone, and we just running for, we don't know what from. We don't know what we're running from.
Just on instinct.
And that was the most terrifying moment of it all. More terrifying than running with the bulls 4 times. So we're running down the hall, with everyone there, and just still falling. There's people knocking over the kiosks of food. They're getting crushed. Bags are being popped open, and we still don't know what we're running from. We hear no sound, no explosions, no gunfire, but nobody was waiting for that. And the things you see on TV and also on movies, maybe not so much movies because we know that's just a movie, but
it was kind of like that.
It was, absolutely. It was like a movie. Like you weren't expecting this at all. And you don't think this, it's cliche, but you don't, oh, that will never happen here. That sort of,
Right.
And so we're running, and we're hiding. And then about 10 minutes later, this Egyptian man that I was sitting there with brings me my power cord back with my.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he gives it back to me. He's tapping me on the shoulder, and I turn to him and I say, "What the is going on?"
Yeah.
But the people there, they were not Turkish people, so they couldn't even understand what was going on either. So we all take cover. We find somewhere to take cover, and we're looking outside because we hear a mob, an angry mob. And we're looking outside, down, we were up a floor, and then the entrance to the airport is lower. So we're looking down, and there's hundreds of people just, chanting something. And someone, leaked out that it sounded like they were a strike. It was just a worker strike. So that, I'm familiar with that. I've been union many times. My dad was union. And so
you're thinking this is what's going on, potentially?
That is what's going on. We're in a foreign country, workers' rights, this happens all the time, And
you must have felt some relief that maybe that was all that was happening?
A tiny bit of relief.
Right.
I still didn't know what they were saying, and nobody else did either. So, but they were all holding Turkish flags. So it was like, okay, so these people are really PO'd, And then at this time, there's another wave of people rushing again. So we run further into the airport, which, I didn't know where I was at even in the airport. And then this time I take cover behind a desk, a little kiosk, ticket agent desk, behind a very large steel beam that I felt safe there, and I hunkered down. I'm down. I'm hiding. My heart is rushing. People are still everyone's talking in another language, and I hear some English too. And then people are holding, kids are crying, and people are holding their kids tighter, and there were some people that seemed a little relaxed,
Okay.
There was a little, so that made me feel a little bit relaxed, when I was looking at them.
People deal with these situations differently, obviously.
People who've been in the situation before, I don't know the situation. I've been in some
and you still don't
violent
know.
Yeah, exactly. We still don't know, and then these what I think are protesters, which later I found that these were the people backing the government that wanted the military coup out. So it was okay, but they break through the doors into they literally breaking into a house. They break into the airport, and they march down the aisle where we were just at. Where now I'm off of the main path.
What did you think was going to happen?
I didn't know. I just knew that I didn't want to be seen, that I tried to make myself very small, and I had no idea what was going to happen.
So what happened next?
So they're marching, like I said, a large mob. They're chanting these slogans, and by this time I realized there are no airport employees there, because someone in this group is somehow made it into, I guess, it would be the PA room.
Okay.
And they are over the PA chanting these slogans, whatever they were saying over
you have
and
no
over.
Idea.
And I have no idea.
Scary.
The people next to me, I was with this one, excuse me. I was next to this one gentleman going to, I think Bali he was, that could be wrong.
Okay.
And then also with this other woman who was going to Athens, Greece, where she was from. And so we don't, they both spoke English. And so they're chanting over the PA and, over and over. So, they weren't giving directions, and the person sounded very intense over the PA. And so we're just staying down. We don't know what's going on. I tear open these panels where the power strip is at for the computer. By this time, we've already started to take over. We're just knocking things off. We're making a space where we can just stay down until we know what's going on. And I plug in my phone because before all this happened, I was charging up my phone. If you recall, to get that power back. And I open up my phone, and I already have like a dozen messages of stuff trickling in, you have to get out of there, go somewhere. What's going this? And this is all coming from the States. I have friends who live abroad and things, and I just parted off with a friend of mine who goes to school in Sweden, and her and I were in Pamplona together, and for just a short time, and she just met me there, and then she went off her own way, and she has friends who live in Turkey. And she's like, Jacobo, you are in the middle of a military coup. And I'm like, and I didn't believe it, I'm just like, what's going on? And then shortly after that, everyone's phones started to crash. But my phone was the link. It was the link to the outside. And, coming from stateside, my friends who are, worldly, and have been in other places, are getting all this information, and they're telling me what's going on CNN, which, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. But they were just reruns over and over, just maybe just keeping viewers or something, just feeding it over.
They were keeping a timeline.
Yeah, and so these people are, next thing I know, I look behind me, and there's over a dozen people that are practically over my shoulder, trying to, and I'm like,
they're depending on you.
Depending on not depending on me, depending on my phone and the information coming through there. I was just saying it, And luckily, a lot of these people who are from all over the world, you know, they all spoke English.
Okay.
They all know English, you know, and so, you know, they understood what was going on. And some people were getting information too, and so together we were, you know, like putting the pieces together, like what we knew. And so, and that was the situation for the next like 24 hours. And then we heard the sonic booms. There was like, the first sonic boom was super, super frightening. And I've heard a sonic boom before on the morning of 9/11.
Okay.
But this sonic boom was like literally, it seemed like it was just 10 feet above you. Like it shook the whole facility. And this is glass that's 2.5 inches thick. You know, it's the airport, you know, so. And it just shook the whole building, and I'm staying down like with these people that I've kind of befriended, and we've kind of started to watch each other's backs a little bit so we can go to the restroom and we can not take our stuff, leave our phones charged, and just leave and just so we relieve each other and sleep while, you know, keeping each other informed. And so, but the first sonic boom like was super, super frightening. You know, luckily we saw no flash, so that was the only thing settling enough to, you know, let us know that hopefully, you know, we're just like, we hope that was not a bomb. And then we heard the next sonic boom, and then we got I received information saying that the president was landing at the airport, like that airport, and so, and then to take back control, which happened really quickly. They immediately, you know, and then we started getting more information saying there was tanks on the ground, that one of the Parliament building was bombed, which I think it was. Now it's kind of hearsay because it's coming, like third parties coming like through my phone now, but so this is what we were getting. This is all we had to go on.
Did you see the president? Did you hear what was going on?
No, absolutely not. We heard no information.
But you saw that things were quickly changing.
Really quickly, yeah, trying to go back into, you know, like take control of the situation. But once again, you're looking out on one side of the building, and then you go to the other side, and the whole airport was just flanked with people, like out on the tarmac, just walking around like by the airplanes, you know, where you're not allowed to walk just freely, you know. So, and you know, there's kids out there, there was women out there with their scarves and the Turkish flag and things, and I didn't see anyone wielding anything, so that made me feel a little bit better, like they were just marching. And later I learned also that they were still part of the people and the part of the government that were trying to take over and push the military out.
What an experience, what a ride. And you were there for a total of?
Almost 2.5 days. 2.5 days.
And I think it's interesting through all the fear for your lives that you formed this community with these people, and there were times where you tried to make some sort of light of the situation you mentioned with them.
Yeah, you know, we joked around a little bit. You know, we found a bottle of wine, we opened it up, you know, we drank it, you know, we laughed a little bit. And I also, you know, like within the thick of all this, you know, tension and chaos, you know, there's always a glimmer, you know, of hope. And Pandora's box wasn't all just, it's not all just bad, you know, like in Greek mythology, it's not just bad. The gods, you know, I think, it was, I forgot his name, but who made Pandora's box to give to man, he put one more thing in there. He put one more thing in there that's not mentioned unless you read about Greek mythology. And he put hope in there. And so there was this little bit of hope in there, and also, like, you know, which you can also say is, you know, goodness too, because, you know, I made friends with these people, and we were all there together, and like, you know, we did try to make light of it, and we comforted each other, and we snuggled together, and we dozed off, and, you know, we were able to walk off, and, you know, and like I said, we made the airport our home. You know, the place was trashed. You know, because there was no employees to clean it up. People were smoking down the hall in the bathroom. People were washing their feet in the sinks, and, you know, I was brushing my teeth and my hair and things like that. And it started to get kind of smelly a little bit. You know, sure. We were just there.
So at what point do you realize I've got to? How am I going to go home? Or who tells you since no one's working? How do you get out of there?
Well, the next more crowded place was the monitors, you know, where you're finding the arrivals and departures and things, and all the U.S., L.A., Washington, Chicago, Atlanta, A lot of major cities that were taking in flights were all blank. There was blank. The other ones, everything was canceled, all the way down. And there's people raging, people were really mad. And so, this is for the record. I called the U.S. Embassy 4 times. Twice I was hung up on. The other 2 times, very rude, pretty unhelpful. I guess they tell you like the normal things that they say, wherever you're at, or if you can get to a hotel, which I was not about to leave the premise. I wasn't going to walk out there.
No.
I didn't know what I was walking out to, or stay where you're at. And they basically just, they seemed really casual over the phone, and of course they closed the embassies, so there was no one there, so you had to call. You press star, and that's for a citizen's emergency. And so someone picks up the phone. Who knows where they were at? Maybe having cocktails. Maybe they were just in their bed, just like, oh, okay, another phone call. But they were not very helpful. Like they could at least, I think probably threw us a bone saying that no U.S. flights are going out. And I'm sure there's, so. Yeah, and I'm sure there's some sort of secrecy where they're not allowed to say something, but they weren't even saying that. So I didn't know, how long I was going to be there, and then for, like I said, I was there for about 2.5 days. There was one day, the last day that I was there, a grand total of 13 hours. I literally stood in line with all these other people trying to get ticket transfers. And this once the employees started to come back, slowly started to come back. And as soon as those employees started coming back, the first thing they put out, I want to make this clear also, the first thing they put out was water, euros, they get a lot of euros, French fries, and nobody went hungry. And they had tea. Nobody went hungry. They had pallets, bringing in pallets, 4.5, 5 foot high, full of stuff, and just passing it out. Even they were still taking in flights. Like when flights started to resume, flights were still landing. So whether if you were there stuck or if you just showed up, you could have got a free meal. And it wasn't the greatest, but like I've had better food there than I had in jail.
You were taken care of as much as they could.
And then on top of that, of course, they took care of my flight too. So like Turkish Airlines took care of the flight. And once I figured, I didn't figure anything. Once I figured out through information that no flights were coming in, no flights were going out, like through Turkish Airlines, because the FAA, this is information still coming through. Like my phone bill is going to be, to the moon. Right. The bill is going to be so high.
Bill the Turkish government.
Yeah, I'll email them on that one.
Good luck.
Send them a fax. But once things.
You got news that you're finally leaving.
Sort of. It was still a lot of rings of fire to jump through. It was not easy. Whether if you were American, whether if you were trying to go to Greece, wherever you were going, like it was not easy.
Nothing about this is easy.
Nothing was. So, but once I finally started getting the ball rolling and things started to flow, and I finally realized that, I spent my last 30 euros to get a visa to walk out of the airport, but just to the ticket booth, to get back in. I spent my last 30 euros on that. After that, I was basically just kind of eating from the airport. Were feeding me. That's when my first flight, they rerouted it to Air France that was still taking in flights to Paris, and then from Turkish Airlines to Paris to catch an Air France back to the States. And that's when I knew that things were, by this time, I was very calm at the time. I never felt alone. I was with everybody physically, but I had so much love and support. I'm motioning at my phone here, but right. The people just coming through the phone, and just I never felt alone. I had such an outpour of people from places where I've lived, here from Chattanooga, other states, Oregon, California, Ohio, Texas, and even people that I've befriended, just on the spot in that country, through other friends who have friends in Turkey, we can do this, let's get you out of there, so. Once I finally started getting that going, when I got that ticket to Paris, that's when like I started to kind of feel more like
take a breath,
relieved, but more like I want to get out of this airport.
Now.
I had to get out of there.
Right.
I was determined. Like I started cutting in line. Where before that, like
frantic.
People, so like because everything was a race against time.
So Paris, I bet it looked better than it ever has.
It did, and that was my first time, and I would go
really?
back again. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But once I got on that plane and they served food, I got 2 bottles of wine. I ate. I finished up a movie that I started
Good for you.
2.5 days ago on the other flight.
Good for you.
Can watch movies.
You deserve it. And then from Paris to Atlanta.
Paris, I was in Paris for, the layover was 10 hours.
Oh, gosh.
I was still there for 10 hours, so once I got to Paris, like I said, I still had no money, and they didn't know where I was coming from really, so therefore I found some food that was discarded.
Right.
Which, I'm not too proud, or even like, I'm very familiar with, using resources and sleeping there, and then finally got on the plane, tired and hungry, and got another meal, and touchdown, and then took the old groom to Chattanooga from Atlanta.
Home to Chattanooga.
Yes. And as soon as I got back to the neighborhood, a dear friend of ours came and picked me up from the groom, and she was super solid. Her name is Leslie. Her daughter Hannah came and picked me up again, just big hugs. And so I get back to they drive me to my home in St. Elmo. I live in St. Elmo, and I see my neighborhood kids, and they've been there for a long time. His name is T and Tasia, and then there's their other little sibling, and they're like, "Hey, Mr. Jacobo, hey," and I'm like, "I am so happy to see you kids," and they're just like. The faces are just like, we just said hi to you, that's all. And I'm just like, want to just grab their heads and
never
them,
let
and
go.
just like,
yeah.
So just because and it was my neighbors and my dog and my cat and my partner, she was actually at work at the time, and then my son came finally to the house. Aww. And he gave me this big hug, and it was it was time, and I Popeye's chicken. So I went with the Popeyes because frankly there's not very good fried chicken over in Spain. So
right. Well,
yeah.
Quite the ride.
Yes. An
experience. Yeah. We want to thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for having me and being interested in the story. I didn't think it would go to this level, but for the record, minus the lives lost, I would do every bit of it again. So. Mm-hmm.
Makes us stronger, right?
Indeed.
Okay. So. Thank you all for living this through with us today with Jacobo's experience, and we'll have more on his journey and everything going on, updates in Turkey, 232 killed in this military coup, and 50,000 people at this point suspended, fired, detained from this. So we'll keep you updated, timesfreepress.com.